nowadays, you can't see a film without expecting a second or even third movie to follow it. Franchises are all the rage, and for good reason. The movies are undoubtedly cash cows for the filmmakers, at least that's what they're supposed to be. There are times when the director just isn't a good fit. The studio gets too involved or the script is so awful a movie crashes and burns. Any number of things could go wrong, and one mistake could turn an established or potential franchise into mush. Before we disgrace these movies for inadvertently destroying their reputations, you should hit that subscribe button. Please don't forget to ring that bell to get notified of the latest of ScreenRant content. Have you checked out our friends over at CRAFTY Hackers? They have some of the most amazing DIY crafts and lifestyle hacks to make your life easier. Pay them a visit after you watch our awesome video. Amazing Spider-Man 2. We all had such high hopes for this franchise, and with Andrew Garfield as our hero and Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, it should have been comic book movie magic. Unfortunately, it wasn't. The actors did give us a great performance, but what they were performing was a giant mess of a script. There were way too many villains, way too many tone shifts, and way too many ideas crammed into one disaster of a movie. Sony was so focused on setting up future projects like Amazing Spider-Man 3 and The Sinister Six that they forgot to give this movie the attention it needed to be good. Regretfully, and yet thankfully, those projects went out the window.
It's fantastic.
Say that again?
Fantastic Four. Remember when they made that really good Fantastic Four movie? Yeah, neither can we. In fact, all three of the major blockbuster films received rotten reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. While Rise of the Silver Surfer was indeed the nail in the coffin for the first franchise, we're going to be discussing the truly horrendous film known as 2015's Fantastic Four. The studio had high hopes for this movie. They even revealed the release date for the sequel before the first movie hit theaters. A mistake, in retrospect, that they were sure to regret. Reviews for the movie were terrible. It didn't make anywhere close to the money it was supposed to, and the Fantastic Four failed once again.
Beware my power. Green Lantern's life!
Green Lantern. Ryan Reynolds has secured his position in the comic book movie Hall of Fame, but it was a long, hard road before he became the Deadpool that we all know and love. First, he had to play the Merc with a Mouth without a mouth in X-Men Origins, and then came the infamous Green Lantern movie in 2011. This was supposed to be the first film in a trilogy, as well as the film that kickstarted the DC Cinematic Universe, but instead it ran everything into the ground. Thankfully, 2 years later, Man of Steel did well enough at the box office to get things going again, albeit at a snail's pace.
Move, puny human animal.
A bit less florid, Data.
Star Trek Nemesis. Star Trek Nemesis was the fourth next-generation movie in a planned series of 5. Unfortunately, it became the final chapter for this particular crew of the USS Enterprise when it failed at the box office. The disappointment of the reviews was matched only by the lack of ticket sales. A big factor in the disappearance of this franchise was going up against the likes of The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. When audiences had the choice between epic battles with orcs, tweens wielding wands, or old bald people in space, they chose the first two. Things are looking up, though, as Sir Patrick Stewart has recently revealed that he will soon be reprising his role as Jean-Luc Picard.
6 million.
7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
Batman and Robin. Not much can be said about this movie that hasn't already been said by other ill-fated viewers who were subjected to the train wreck that is Batman and Robin. We have the very punny dialogue from Mr. Freeze, played by Governor Schwarzenegger, George Clooney's portrayal of Batman, and everybody's favorite, Batnips. Batman and Robin was the fourth film in a string of mostly successful Batman movies throughout the 90s, so obviously they had plans for a fifth movie, until it all crashed and burned. In a way, we should be thankful this film killed the franchise when it did, because it also had a hand in shutting down plans for the terrifying Nicolas Cage Superman movie.
Damn, I thought that was closer.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. We hate to bring it up and remind the public of this horrible travesty, but we can't just ignore it happened. Yes, Spielberg and Lucas made a fourth Indiana Jones movie. Yes, it was a ridiculous slap in the face to fans, complete with nuclear bomb-proof refrigerators and interdimensional beings. But it happened, and we're hoping the filmmakers learned from their mistakes. Although this franchise has been dead for 10 years, a fifth movie is in development. However, Indiana Jones 5 has already been delayed by a couple years due to issues with the script. We're thinking somebody must have snuck in a black hole-proof dishwasher and Uganda knuckles into the script, and they're taking the time to remove them.
You're alive. Too bad you
will die.
Mortal Kombat: Annihilation. In 1995, a movie based on a video game was released that wasn't half bad. Well, at least it made money. That movie was Mortal Kombat. 2 years later, a movie was released that shattered cinema records and grossed over $1.84 billion. That movie was Titanic, but it was very close to the release date of Mortal Kombat: Annihilation, so it's almost like they both did a good job. Except for the fact that Annihilation was almost unanimously despised by critics, looked like an episode of the original Power Rangers, and was described by the creator of the game as the lowest point of Mortal Kombat's history. Needless to say, they canceled the third movie. Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. It's a shame that the original Superman franchise had to go out with a fizzle instead of a bang, but it would have been nearly impossible to follow up with a fifth movie after what happened with Superman 4. In fact, they completely ignored the events of both Superman 3 and 4 when they tried to reboot the franchise with Superman Returns. The script was awful, the villain was laughable, and the budget for the movie resulted in pathetic special effects. Christopher Reeve will no doubt be remembered as one of the best to don the red, blue, and yellow suit, but this movie will also be remembered as the one that killed the franchise. The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender was supposed to be the movie that would bridge the gap between anime and Hollywood blockbuster live-action movies. It wasn't. After the ghastly reviews it received from fans and critics alike, the proposed trilogy was canceled. In fact, it took 7 years before another anime would be given a shot, but not even a live action of a classic like Ghost in the Shell starring Scarlett Johansson in a skin-tight bodysuit could do the job. It seems as though for the time being we're stuck with dreadful to mediocre live actions like Attack on Titan, Full Metal Alchemist, Death Note, and without a doubt, the worst excuse for a Dragon Ball movie ever, Dragon Ball Evolution.
Now dig on this.
Spider-Man 3. The first Spider-Man was met with both critical and commercial success, and the second movie was equally impressive. It seemed as though this would be the next big superhero franchise. Then they made a third one. Audiences had such high hopes and were so excited to get their first glimpse of Venom, but then they gave us Topher Grace, and Sandman, and the New Goblin. The movie was so bloated with content, and all of it was just terrible. And who could forget our favorite web-slinger's emo phase complete with ridiculous hair and dance moves to boot? It was cringe at its finest, and it will forever live on through the World Wide Web as those delicious, delicious memes.
What's wrong with you?
If you're all about making life easier for yourself, have you checked out our friends over at Crafty Hackers? They have some amazing DIY crafts and lifestyle hacks that will help you do exactly that. Leave them a like and let them know ScreenRant sent you while you're there. So much potential extinguished by bad movies. Of course, these aren't the only movies to murder franchises, so we'll throw it over to you. What is your favorite franchise that has been utterly ruined by a terrible, terrible film? Don't forget to show us some love by hitting that like button and subscribe to ScreenRant for more juicy content.